Congressman Self, thanks for joining us here. Let's start here. You had a coffee with Keith, which has been sort of your town hall that you've been doing. 2 weeks ago, you were in Wiley. This week, you're supposed to be in Greenville.
Right.
You decided to cancel that, or was that your team that decided to cancel that?
Well, we had a call that we decided jointly to cancel it out of concern for safety, because we've been getting some really vile calls and just disgusting. My staff is absorbing that, and we're concerned about what was going to happen on Saturday. And if I may, I'd like to read you just one of the messages that we have received.
And this is over social media. This is Facebook Messenger?
Facebook Messenger, that's correct.
Yeah.
What you did was no different than calling an African American the N-word. Your behavior comes from the same place as that bigotry, a place of abusive intent. You are evil. You deserve to be destroyed, God willing. A good person will put multiple rounds in your chest so you can't hurt any more people. And that's only one. That's one that we have referred to law enforcement. There have been several others. But then just hundreds of, normally not in my district. This is across the nation, calling in with just despicable verbal abuse of my staff.
Now, have you heard this kind of rhetoric before? I'm sure you have. This isn't new.
This is as bad as I have ever heard on anything that I have done in Congress. So yes, this is pretty bad.
How much do you think this is more of the state of the country, or specifically targeted towards you?
It's definitely the state of the country. There are two worldviews on full display in Washington, D.C. There is the one that person accountability, civic conscience, and then there is one that is just, if you don't buy into whatever I believe, whatever fantasy I have, you are evil. That's exactly what you just heard.
And how many messages are there like that you can speak to?
Oh, there are hundreds. I've gotten probably 100 myself. My staff has gotten several hundred. DC gets them, district staff gets them. They'll come through the website, as you say, social media. This is a nationwide issue.
And you're saying this is really all just ramped up in the last several weeks?
It's ramped up since my incident at the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Okay. But before that, we had Wiley.
Right.
Right. You were in Wiley.
Right.
There were a lot of people there.
There were.
A lot of hecklers who, and I'm sure they, that still echoes the vote you out. I mean, they yelled out, vote you out. I'm sure you're used to that.
Well, of course. Now, they had come early and filled all of the seats, so there were very few conservatives in that audience. There was probably 400 people there. Most of them were the hecklers, as you call them. But that was not nearly as bad as what we're seeing today. I've got that. That's a normal part of being a politician in Texas. This is a rough and tumble game.
In terms of calling the Greenville coffee with Keith,
right.
Was that was your decision on a personal level?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, the buck stops here. No, I made the final decision.
Did you feel like your safety and security were at risk here?
Well, that was not the concern. I mean, I can go into an event and pretty much handle myself. The problem was that if it got out of hand, it was going to be staff and the members that were there, the attendees, that were going to suffer the consequences. And I was just not willing to put anyone in harm's way, nor the property. We were going to be in the high school. So in the high school, we don't want the high school torn up either if things got out of hand.
Now, it's our understanding the way the Wiley meeting was set up versus the way the Greenville meeting was set up was different.
Yeah,
right?
the Wiley meeting was on the Collin College campus,
right.
Which means they had their own police force, they had their own procedures. In Greenville, it was going to be in the high school, which of course would have been the local police, which would have been different.
Yeah.
But
was there a limit? Was there a limit to who can go, how many can go, or anything like that?
No, neither place. We did ask them to register for the Greenville coffee, but I will tell you, a lot of the emails we got were probably fake, and we could tell. So we were concerned about that as well. Who was going to be in the audience?
In your statement today, you spell out that these are leftists, these are liberals that are posting this. How do you know they are?
because it's what I hear on the floor of the House every day. Republicans deal in facts. Liberals the progressive left deals in emotion. I hear it every day in the debate. You go to the floor of the House to debate anything, and all you hear is emotion from the left. They really don't want to debate facts or details. They simply want to make accusations, which most of the time we call the lies of the left, because that's what they deal in.
This isn't just happening to you. Other Congress members
Right.
across the country have been dealing with this as well. Were you taken aback by what you were met with in Wiley? And did it take you by surprise a little bit?
No,
'Cause it felt that way.
we fully expected that.
Okay.
And that's why calm demeanor, try to import information, but they really weren't interested in information in Wiley.
But Congressman, it almost felt like you were apprehensive in certain parts of that meeting and watching some of the videos. Did you not feel, you didn't feel any of that?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. If we can we talk about the spending bill, the GOP spending bill that was just
Absolutely.
recently passed
Sure.
by a very, 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 very slim margin, this continuing resolution.
Right.
Your track record doesn't normally, is this your first time voting for that?
First time ever voting for a continuing resolution. Continuing resolutions are not the way to govern. They're horrible.
Why this time?
Trump. Because Trump is going to take this and he's going to use it to continue to cut out the fraud, waste, and abuse. But he had to have a budget before he could do that. So now, when the Senate votes, and I assume they're voting this afternoon, they're supposed to be, once they pass it, it goes to his desk, he signs it. He now has a budget for the last months of this year, this fiscal year, and he will continue to cut out the fraud, waste, and abuse. But he had to have a budget before he could do that.
You know, public opinion on what fraud, waste, and abuse is can differ, right? I mean,
Sure.
And so that has been under a lot of scrutiny. You still believe the DOGE, what Musk and what the president is pushing for is the right way to go?
Oh my gosh. In my newsletter this week, I put up the two figures. I think it was 76% agree with Doge, 71% approved of the president's speech. Those were the two figures I put up. I think overwhelmingly the American people agree that there is huge bloat. Now, the loudest people are the people that are against it.
Seeing one poll, the president's approval rating currently is under almost 40%. So I'm trying to figure out where the 76% is coming from.
That was I think it was a CNN poll that talked about approval for Doge and what they're doing, not the president, Doge.
Let's talk about tariffs and the economy.
Yeah.
Do you feel ultimately this is good for the constituents of Collin County?
Ultimately, you used the right word. There may be a short-term pain as President Trump negotiates with everyone. And listen, people react to what he says initially, his initial negotiating position, but frankly, he's just starting the negotiations. And when you look at the countries we're negotiating with, he is negotiating with, a huge percentage of their GDP comes from America. A very tiny percentage of our GDP comes from them. So that's the advantage he has when he negotiates with these various countries.
And so you speak to a pain that's going to happen at least in the short term. Mm-hmm. What if this becomes long term? Are you going to step out and say, President Trump, I think this is enough? There's no more wheeling and dealing that needs to happen.
We're not going to deal in rhetoric because we're already starting to see inflation come down, price of eggs come down. So in the most immediate things that our constituents see, we're already seeing results. Now the tariffs are international, so they take a while. So we'll see, but I have every confidence that he will rebuild American manufacturing, cut down on the unfair practices that we have against us.
What timeline are you willing to give the president to make these things?
Well, we have a very short timeline. It's not what I'm willing to give him, but we've got the midterms coming up. And frankly, here in Texas, we're talking about campaigning starts in what, 7 or 8 months? Mm-hmm. And that was the mistake they made in 2017. They waited too long to pass the continuing resolution and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So it didn't have time to kick in before the midterms. That's why we want to get it moving now so that we have the positive impact before the midterms.
Can we talk about what happened to the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee?
Absolutely.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman?
The
Would you
standard-
repeat what you just said when
I-
you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I mean, I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You
hearing.
will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
Was that toward the beginning of the meeting, or was that?
No,
when
no,
was
at the
that?
very end. He was the last person to ask questions.
Okay.
The meeting was basically over. He was going to be the last person to.
And I noticed you're still saying he.
Well, that's right. That's what he is.
And so, do you regret how all of that transpired?
No, I mean, I didn't expect to have the fuss because, frankly, we had settled his bathroom issue. He uses a male bathroom early. Mary Miller had called him Mr. McBride on the floor of the House. That had happened, so I thought all of that had been settled. Apparently, it hadn't.
Yeah, I mean, the world knows her as Representative Sarah McBride, and that's not the way you introduced her.
Well, physically, he is a man, and I don't think that any of us, myself included, need to participate in that fantasy, in that charade. He is a man. He's free to live his life as he chooses, but I don't have to participate in that charade.
From here on out, in that subcommittee, is that how you will be addressing her?
Well, yeah, that's what he is. Of course.
Do you regret how it all came about, or no?
Well, I regret that the ranking member exploded like that.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, I gendered him properly. He misgendered me. So what does the ranking member do? He blows up at the Republican that's telling the truth, not the Democrat who is not telling the truth.
How did you feel about this member calling you Madam Chair?
I was going to let it slide until the ranking member blew up.
Yeah, and that ranking member said you were indecent. Your comments on that?
I obviously disagree because truth is important here. And the truth is that he is a man, and I will refer to him as a man. I mean, President Trump has made it official policy. We have two. He goes into men's bathrooms. We've already set the standard. This was not the first rodeo with McBride in the U.S. Congress.
In your tenure in the Congress, have you had a more eventful 2 weeks?
We've had a couple of major wins with the budget resolution, with the CR, and now this. So it's been a tremendously exciting 2 weeks.
What has this done for you in terms of just your confidence or just your overall well-being? The last 2 weeks have been an up and down roller coaster, I can assume.
We are riding high as a Republican Party. You probably saw the reports that the Senate Democrats were screaming at each other in a closed-door meeting before they decided they needed to vote for it, and I look forward to seeing the vote today. But it's been an exciting 2 weeks, and I think we are riding high, and the Trump agenda is going to be enacted. He's got a great set of cabinet secretaries on board now, so they're going to continue to do the work.
On a personal level, between canceling the town halls, what just happened here at the subcommittee, has it taken a toll on you personally?
Oh, no. As I've said before, being a retired Green Beret, this doesn't faze me. It's actually energizing to be in the mix that we are in the middle of what's happening in America. This is so important to America, to be in the middle of what's happening.